Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fourth week of our witchy, spooky October pumpkin-y jack-o'-lantern times.
Oh, yeah, baby.
That sounds like a good time.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
And you're listening to The Booger and the Fart on 98.3 Film Seizure. Anyway.
Instead of the three H's, we're the three A-holes, right?
This is,
That's right.
one of those episodes where we need the soundboard. Like, they come up every now and then.
Anyway, this week we are talking about
We
a
are
DJ.
weak, aren't we? Sorry.
I hate it. I hate it already. I hate everything.
You would hate it, wouldn't you?
Susan was checking out so early on this movie because of that.
Yeah. So anyway, this is why when people say, have you ever thought about going in the radio? And it's like, not if it's going to be that type of radio. Anyway, I'll read the news or something. Anyway, so
Whoa, we got a snork. You got a snork.
You got a snork.
oh god, this episode's already off to a great start.
Hey, this is
it's
Chuck
almost
Moore coming to you live from sunny San Diego, California.
Well, hey there, guys.
Yeah, today we're talking about the Lords of Salem from Rob Zombie. It's a 2012 supernatural horror film with Sherry Moon Zombie and her butt.
Yeah, her butt is in this. Yeah.
Bare ass.
That's all right. I'm not against that concept. Anyway, so this is this is not the first time Rob Zombie has eked his way through onto filmseizure.com, because I have covered House of a Thousand Corpses on Monster Mondays, but this is the first time the three of us have talked about Rob Zombie. And I think this might be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because he's a polarizing guy.
He is indeed.
I think now one thing I do want to ask you guys.
Yes.
Because I think he's got two very distinct careers. Because to me, I think he is a pretty good rock star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's got some bangers.
Yeah, I've seen him live a couple times. I enjoyed some Rob Zombie back in the day.
But you never saw him with White Zombie though, right? You saw him solo.
No.
Yeah,
I never did see him with White Zombie.
My insurance company hates him though, because everyone's always banging into the back of my Dragula.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
That's a groaner.
This night has gone on a while.
This is we've had technical issues.
Normal.
Yeah. Oh boy. We might end up getting a little contentious here. Anyway, but as a filmmaker, I think that's where a lot of people, because the same people are going to say he's one of their favorite hard rock musicians are also probably going to be the people who will, on paper, think he would be a great horror film director and will be the first ones to complain about him as a filmmaker. Would you agree with that?
I don't think that his fan base would be the first ones to disagree with him as a filmmaker. I think his naysayers in the horror community and the heavy metal community would be the first ones to disagree with him. I think if you're like a Rob Zombie, White Zombie super fan, you probably have been on board from day one and are still on board.
Well, I would say maybe not after Halloween.
He could be a little polarizing. Maybe not after Halloween. That was kind of like the breaking point of his film career. Yeah.
Which this comes after.
Yeah. And that's definitely part of this, because this is a much lower budget film.
Yeah.
He was kind of facing a little bit of a backlash when he made this. And yes, a lot of people came to this movie with their noses up. Me included, to be honest.
I know. Yeah, I know, because we'll tell that story here in a moment.
And yes, and the horror community is, let's face it, they're not like the most
2 weeks in a row, we're going to dog the horror community.
They're a little narrow-minded, and they
you are in the horror community. What are you talking?
I know I am, but
we're talking about like the mainstream horror.
As a generalization, the people who are just like, that's pretty much all they watch.
I think that clarity is needed, though.
They're very like narrow-minded in what they like and what they want from a horror film, and sometimes I just don't understand it. Like, I always want my expectations subverted. If horror is going to be a thing and continue to be a thing, there has to be a subversion of that thing.
I don't know.
Otherwise, it's just the same fucking bullshit, or it's this extreme one-upping of the thing, which is like what those Terrifier.
Well, that's what the aughts brought with it. The Saw, the Eli Roth,
But to me, it's like, how are we going to get back to what's really scary? How can we get back to like what's really like horrific without necessarily the outrageous stuff? And that's why I kind of applaud this movie, especially coming from Rob Zombie, because he's coming from this reputation of this like Texas Chainsaw Massacre type gore, right? House of a Thousand Corpses, then Devil's Rejects, then the Halloween movies, right? And it's like he's just trying to like shock you, right? And that was kind of what his whole persona was as a rock star, was shock you, horror rocker, like, you know. We want to bring the.
Well, he was a 90s version of a glam rocker.
Yeah,
right?
He was kind of like the heir apparent to like the Alice Cooper, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
And then he makes this movie, and it really strips it all down.
Yeah, it
kind of gets back to some basics. It kind of gets to the root of some of his real like film inspirations, which I think are very much on his sleeve in this movie, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. We weren't going to criticize Ty West for it last week. Why would I criticize Rob Zombie for it this week, right?
Well, Rob Zombie has always worked within pastiche, right?
Yeah.
Where he takes major swings, I think, is where you get into your Halloween, and especially Halloween 2, where, whoo, boy, does he take a big swing there. And like he does the thing, he swings so hard, he spins around.
Oh, Casey at bats it. Yeah.
Yeah. And but like, to me personally, like, I do really like House of a Thousand Corpses for being this kind of crazy, nightmarish version of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think the Devil's Rejects is a movie that does a lot of that subversion, where it's like you actually somehow find yourself caring about the people you shouldn't, because there's also the person you think should be the good guy is also really bad, you know? And so it's like, it does this weird thing where you kind of see them as human characters, to the point where it's like, it's one of the few examples of a movie where it's like, there's a detestable cast of people that I actually am along for the ride with.
Yeah.
Not that I agree with what they're doing, but I'm with them.
It's funny, like when I saw the House of a Thousand Corpses the first time, I didn't really like it that much. I was kind of annoyed.
I feel like you'd like it more nowadays.
Well, let me finish.
Okay.
I found everyone to be kind of obnoxious. The people who aren't the bad guys and the people who are, I just felt everyone was obnoxious. And I really liked Devil's Rejects when I saw it. And I think because of that, like, it's kind of subverted House of a Thousand Corpses. But it's funny. Nowadays, I've watched both of them fairly recently in the last 2 or 3 years, and my opinion has totally flipped. I like House of a Thousand Corpses much, much more now than I did, and I think a lot less of Devil's Rejects. Devil's Rejects is a movie that annoys me now. Yeah.
I have some thoughts in there.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from that.
They're going back just a little bit. because I did ask my brother, my older brother, who's a huge White Zombie fan, Rob Zombie fan, has not either knowingly or purposefully seen any of his movies.
Okay.
I don't think they're like the intersection between music fans and movies fans isn't as large sometimes as we think it is.
Okay.
I think I would expect if it were me and I was a huge Rob Zombie fan, I'd be like, I'm going to watch all his movies because that's the way I am.
Sure.
With everything.
Sure.
But I don't think everyone is like that. So he says he hasn't seen any of his films. I bet he's seen the Halloween remake and maybe doesn't remember.
Maybe. Does he like horror films?
Yeah, but he's not a huge fan of horror. He really likes Rob Zombie. I would expect him to follow him.
You would think so. Yeah.
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 The other thing is subversion. Like, I get that. Like, I know you like high art, right? And I'm not being judgmental here. You like high art.
Wait, you're talking about Jason, right?
Jason.
You're not talking to me. Okay.
Yes. Because you could give me the same formulaic giallo like 9 times.
Yeah, right. You and I are on the same page.
I'll be like, which one's better?
Yeah.
But I like them all.
Where's the next Marvel movie? I'm going.
Yes. But it's weird because I'm against that in a way. Like,
Sure.
I'm over the formulaic superhero film. But I'll take it
fair.
in horror all day long. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. You like what you like or whatever. And I'm not a big fan of sci-fi, just so you guys know.
But how do you feel about time travel?
I fucking hate it. But it's interesting to me that someone who, and maybe my brother's not emblematic of all fans, but I think that might be kind of a thing. Like, I like the music, but if I'm not a movie fan, why would I travel to that area? Just going back to what you said earlier.
I agree with you because I think what it comes down to is what level of fan are you? And I'm not saying like anyone's a bigger fan than the other one, right? Everybody can love the music, but how deeply do you get involved in the lore? How deeply do you get involved in the music videos and the art craft of it all, right? Because yeah, every artist has their super fans, right?
Right.
And they're super beasts.
Yes.
El Super Beasto.
Exactly. So yeah, I think that you're right. There is probably a smaller Venn diagram overlap than I'm imagining in my head, but it's still there.
Yes, absolutely. One thing for me, and I'm showing my hand a little bit as we're talking about this movie, is that I like Rob Zombie in 3 to 4 minute songs. I like his views, or not his views, his artistic expression in a 3 to 4 minute video.
Sure.
I don't know if he deserves an hour and 30 minutes at any time that I've seen him. Granted, this might be the one movie where I'm like, okay, he earned a lot of what happens in this movie, if this makes sense. But it is extremely, well, this is unfair because it's a shallow film in a lot of ways. But if you think about it, it's kind of deep.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's where I kind of want to get into it with this movie, because watching it with my wife and kind of unpacking some of the like Salem lore, it's a little bit of a disappointing movie when you really kind of like try to get too deep. I honestly kind of prefer to keep it a little bit above the surface and let it just be, again, almost like a tone poem like last week's movie, because that's when it works better for me. If I try to like dig under the surface a little bit and think about like the history of Salem and all of those women who were falsely accused of witches and being
I
like,
love
killed,
that shit.
I love it. I love it, but I don't think this movie does it service.
Not at all.
And that's where it starts to kind of get a little like, right? It doesn't have the intellectual weight that I want it to have. It could have. If they tweaked just a couple things, I would have really liked it. I still like it. Don't get me wrong. I think it is a wonderfully like shot movie. I think from the perspective of like watching it and letting it wash over you and just getting into the creepiness of it, it works. It's effective, right? But
This
for
movie
me,
drags you down every
the more I
hallway.
try to pick at it, the less I like it. So I try to not to pick at it. Does that
That's
make
fair.
sense?
That's fair.
One more thing, if you don't
Sure.
mind, Jeff. And
Yeah, go right ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you there,
No.
Chase. And Jeff. That part of it, the whole Salem part of it, which is like the shell, it's almost like the eggshell, right? Really, this movie is about addiction.
Yes.
Sure.
And that's where it's deep, in my opinion. It's not in the story of the Salem witches. And we'll talk about how that like is integrated in the film, but that feeling of helplessness and always being dragged into the pit of your depths with no control, right?
Yeah.
Like as someone who drinks too much, I wonder if I'm a Hawthorne kid sometimes, you know, like to make a reference to the movie, like that part I get, like I can see how this is deep and despairing and like whatever.
Totally agree.
Even from my higher, like, I don't know, I don't want to grade myself on the scale of 1 to 10 and drinking too much, but it's, that part like hit. Yep. That hits me.
Yep. No, you're totally right about that. You're totally right about that. Yep.
Yeah, because it's also like, because I mean, even some of the imagery that's used in it, if you go down that rabbit hole of talking about addiction, it's almost like you're seeing you're almost seeing some of the shots play out. What do they call that, Jason, when they have all the fucking stained glass things of the different stations of the
Stations of the cross?
Of the cross.
Oh, we're going to talk a lot about Catholic imagery in this.
Yeah, because but if we talk about like what somebody goes through in terms of addiction, I think there are certain shots that could almost act like stations of addiction.
Yeah.
Because there's the one scene where she's standing in front of that neon cross, where it's like, that's just a static shot of like how some people deal with addiction or try to deal with addiction.
Or standing in front of the bar with the neon sign of the
neon bar, but also
of,
like how many like homeless shelters have you seen in real life and in movies where they always have the neon sign outside? Hell,
Jesus saves.
And it's blinking.
Jesus saves. Or you can go downtown right now to the Wheeler Mission.
Wheeler Mission, yep.
And you'll see one, right?
Yep.
That's powerful imagery. Yeah.
Yeah. And so going back to something we said last week, this movie also is either you're vibing with it or you're not. And certainly I remember seeing so kind of to tell the story of going to see this movie, I decided this came out like in the spring of 2013 or something like that. It played Toronto Film Festival in September of 2012. Came out in theaters in 2013, in spring of 2013.
Right.
And I decided one Saturday, back when AMC used to do like Saturday, like if you went before noon, there were like $5 movies or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go see the new Rob Zombie movie. Why not? So I went, plunked down my $5, sat in the chair, watched it, and I thought, man, I'm vibing with this. The imagery has got me. It was like, this is one of those movies that I want to watch in October.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got an attitude to it. It's got a mood to it. It's effective in those ways.
It's pretty fucking mean. Like, not even pretty mean. It's a mean movie. And this is like, not to interrupt you there again, I'm sorry, but
no,
it is like when I listen to Rob Zombie's music, this is the attitude that it gives me.
That's true, because his music is very raw and mean. while still being motivating
in a
way, like it can pump you up, you know.
So that is like something different about his music, because I don't know if I'm motivated by this film even at all.
No,
yes,
that
like
was the one thing that's missing between
it's
in
like,
the filter
it's
there.
like
Right.
a dichotomy or whatever, if I'm using the right word. So this movie has all that mean streak of Rob Zombie without the riff.
Right.
That makes you feel good.
The pump
about
up
what you're listening to.
Right. Yeah.
It's all bass guitar and no lead guitar.
Yeah, there's no riff. There's no.
Listen to the damn song that the Lords play. It's all
so
bass.
good.
It's all bass drum and bass guitar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I was saying that as you stepped away, Jason, I was talking about like when I went and saw this, it's like I was into it, man. It's like, this is a movie that makes me want to watch it in October.
Yeah. And you saw it in the theater. That's a big one too, I think, for this movie. I do feel like this.
I was locked in
better on a big screen. And even in like an empty theater, which I'm sure it was.
No, it actually wasn't, because I was telling him this was back in the day, I think, when AMC used to do Saturday morning before noon, you see a movie for $5.
Well,
I'm thinking a lot of movies would see a lot of people there.
I'm thinking about like the last scene though, with like the very sparsely popular.
Oh, sure.
Show.
It would have been cool if it was you and 12 other women.
Right. And
dead naked women.
At the end. Oh my god. That would have been a great promotional event. Yeah.
What, to make me shit my pants? What do you want me to, is that what you want to promote?
Yeah. Like word of mouth. Jeff shit his pants.
Okay, so what is this? What is this movie about?
Well, hold up. I want to kind of talk a little bit about how I came to this movie.
Yeah, because the end of my story was I came out of that theater and I texted Jason. I was like, dude, I think Rob Zombie attempted to make a Stanley Kubrick movie.
And when he said that, I immediately hated it. That's a problem. That's a problem, because it's the same thing that Jeff always talks about, where it's like, if you tell Jeff you got to see a thing, he and you keep telling him, he just won't, and he'll like. It
only takes once,
right? It only takes
like
once.
Bob's Burgers.
Well, that's what happened. That's
whatever.
what happened with this movie and me. When as soon as he put Stanley Kubrick and Rob Zombie in the same sentence, I was like, fuck that. I'm going to find every reason to hate it.
That's interesting.
And I did hate it the first time I saw it, because I was not actively trying to like it. I wasn't open to it. Right?
That's the better way to say it, right?
I was close to it, and I will
We're
admit
actively trying to hate it, not actively.
Yeah, I was trying to pick it apart. I was trying to pick it apart, and then I don't know why. Maybe it was the Velvet Underground stuff in it that like kind of hooked into me. And I gave it another chance a couple years later, and it honestly, like, it was the perfect just convergence of time, place, space, drugs. It was just like yes, I kind of get this movie now. And every year since then, it's been a staple in my October. I watch it every year, because it does like nail it. It nails that like that spooky fall, like seasonal horror, right?
You've got three things that nail this. One, you got Salem, Massachusetts. Yeah. Two, you've got gray skies. And three, you've got blowing loose leaves.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like that's the perfect Halloween movie.
And honestly, it's like really well shot. The DP on this just got it. Like, I guess this is kind of dumb, but it makes sense. As an example of what he wanted it to look like, Rob Zombie told the DP, who was Brandon Trost, he said, I want you to watch The Shining, Rosemary's Baby, which we're talking about next week, and Ken Russell's Lair of the White Worm. And it's like it's a weird amalgam of those three things.
I also pick up a tiny bit of In the Mouth of Madness too.
Yeah, Carpenter's for sure in here. So, especially some of those like really static shots.
Well, the girl walking
and the way
alone
those
is very
those
Halloween.
smash cuts. Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Well, and I think of the town of in the Mouth of Madness looking like this portion of town that they use.
I even think it like
for this
like
movie.
Haddonfield. It feels
Sure.
like Haddonfield.
It's Haddonfield in the big city,
Yeah.
kind of. Can I?
Go ahead, please.
I'll add to this because this is the first time I saw this.
Oh, cool.
I think I might have said that a couple weeks ago, but the whole Jeff, 1,000,000% with you on the Stanley Kubrick, because there are scenes where a door opens and I'm like, oh shit, this is like the hallway in The Shining going into the ballroom in The Shining, or even Barry Lyndon, like looking shit like that. That is not lost on me at all. What was the other? Yeah, just I think Rob Zombie did try to make
Polanski and Ken Russell.
Yeah, Polanski and Ken Russell. And what's interesting about that is like The Shining, even though Kubrick didn't make it about this, the original book is about addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like the movie is not, but the book is.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So there is
those
like
hallway shots too. In,
it's fucking insane. Like, I don't even know.
That's also so Polanski though. Like I cannot wait to talk about Rosemary's Baby next week.
Clearly,
I agree, but this is one of those movies where I was unsure when I left it, and I'm sure when we're done with this talking about it that I'm going to be like, okay, I like that movie, because I am like seriously unsure right now. There is a lot to love about it, and there is a lot I don't like about it.
Well, that's the funny thing, because this was a very similar. It sounds like to me you're in a very similar place I was when, I don't remember how many episodes ago. It seems like 18 years ago when we talked about The Man Who Would Be King.
Oh yeah.
I came into that thinking, I don't think I like this movie, but we started talking about it. And then after we recorded our episode, I got to thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? That's a good movie. It's a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
Well, I think that like, it's interesting. I think for me over the years, like I'm good at formulating my own opinion, right? Like I can do that on my own. But this show has taught me, being on this podcast has taught me that talking about movies is important too, right?
Yeah.
Like it is seriously important, because I need those other perspectives to really, and this is true in all walks of life. And I always laugh at people who are in, what is it called? When you're in your own bubble with people who all say the same shit. Echo chambers. Echo chambers suck.
Yeah.
Right? Like talking to you guys and hearing dissenting opinions, or even opinions that are similar to mine but caught onto a different thing. Like, I think that's why people listen to shows like this.
Sure.
Right. I would hope so. Like, who wants to listen to a bunch of people just gush together about the same thing? Like, yes, certainly.
Well, there's certainly
we have a lot of episodes like that, but I think a lot of times we even when we agree, we still disagree on the margins, right?
Sure. Right, and point out things that the other didn't think of.
Yeah,
or
like how a best friend and a roommate are completely different people.
Totally different characters. It's just empirical. I mean.
But that's what I love about this, and that's why,
Well, and the thing is, it's like, and Chuck, to kind of piggyback on that idea, right? It's like you and I are comic book fans. And Jason, you buy your share of comics from time to time.
I'm no slouch.
No, you're no slouch. But we all have different likes, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like I'm an Avengers guy. Chuck, you're an X-Men guy. Jason likes weirdo shit sometimes.
And aliens.
and aliens. But I know you are a major fan because you were the perfect age for the Death of Superman stuff.
Oh, I was totally into that.
Yeah. So but we all come from these different perspectives. And while we will very rarely all meet in the perfect Venn diagram, we all are practically all lying on top of, that diagram in saying we are glad that the other person has their thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
So, sometimes that's what it's all about, right? Is that, maybe you disagree. Maybe Jason and I will have two marginally different opinions about this movie. And Chuck, you may come out of this episode still not liking this movie, but you're not going to sit there and say, God, they're stupid for liking this movie. I'm glad they like this movie, or I'm glad they have an opinion on this movie, or that they have something different to offer to this movie than I do.
Absolutely. I mean, I will never begrudge anyone their fandom of anything, but
there's no accounting for taste, right?
Right.
So, So anyway, what is this movie about?
Well, all right.
So here we go. We've come full circle now.
Yes.
On the surface, this movie is about a woman who works like the midnight show at a radio station in Salem, Massachusetts.
And they're the best.
With
they are the best.
Foray from
Ken Foray, yeah.
Dawn of the Dead, God,
love it.
God love him, right? And then another guy, I'm not quite sure what else he was in.
Oh, he was
like him in this. Whoever
Jeff Daniel Phillips has been in a shit ton of stuff. In fact, he is Herman Munster later on in Rob Zombie's
is
career.
He really?
Yeah,
Okay.
but he was.
It looks like he's been in a lot of Rob Zombie stuff.
Yeah, but he's been. He's been around for a bit and shows up at a lot lot
He's like
uncredited
in Zodiac. That's interesting.
Not to belabor.
Holy shit! He was the perimeter guard in Sneakers. Playtronics perimeter guard in Sneakers.
Sneakers.
You're now my favorite.
Movie.
Yeah,
I love that
movie.
movie.
Good movie. We talked about it. Check it out.
But
Anyway.
yeah, he's really good. I can't remember what I was going to say. Go ahead, Jason.
But yeah, just to continue on what we're talking, what the movie is about. The three of them have a late night radio show that includes a lot of special effects and sound effects, which is really obnoxious.
It's obnoxious.
but in a way though, it's like it is kind of at first I was like, oh God, stop. Then
oh God.
my
God.
Seriously, Chuck.
Yeah.
I'm about to bounce you from this fucking show.
Stop being such a perv.
But but I looked at it as this is an obvious joke on this kind of concept, right?
Sure,
it's like it is very obviously the Rob Zombie's like, I've been on these shows, these people are fucking assholes, and it's like it's painful at times.
It's so funny that Ken Foray was actually his character's Herman Munster Jackson. That's so amazing. Yeah. All right. But yes, they have a radio show. Sherry Moon Zombie, her name is Heidi LaRock. Heidi gets a package left at the front desk of the radio station. It is a wooden box with a vinyl record inside, and it's got a note attached to it that says that it's from the band The Lords, is all it says. And so, you assume, as you would, that this is somebody who is in a band who's trying to get attention and get radio play. I'm sure DJs, especially in that era, got a lot of submissions like this, like anonymous tapes and CDs and shit, like listen to my band.
And especially at the midnight show, because the primetime people, they ain't playing this shit.
And of course you want to stand out, right?
Right.
Like you can't just send your CD CDR in a fucking envelope. You've got to stand out, right? Like press a record and put it in a creepy ass wooden box.
Hell yeah.
Right? I would listen to that. Why wouldn't you? So that's kind of the setup, right? You're learning about her. She lives in this apartment building. She has kind of a sort of older lady tenant who's landlady who's kind of creepy, but also kind of like grandma, right? It's in the beginning, you're sort of like on the fence with her. It's like
that is Judy Geeson. Now, she
Yes.
was in one of maybe my favorite Norman J. Warren joints in Seminoid. She's the one who gives birth to the alien baby.
Yeah. And she's kind of like the first, other than Ken Foray, she's kind of like the first. This is one of those like old time B movie like scream queens, because there's a lot of them in this.
This movie's
my favorite one.
That shit.
I mean, when Patricia Quinn shows up, it's like hot damn.
Yeah,
let's do it.
yeah. Well, she's awesome in this.
Yes.
But even before this, we've had the scene, the
Andrew Prine.
The backstory, the flashback scene with the witches, right? And
Meg Foster.
Hawthorne seeing this Meg Foster, motherfucking Meg Foster. Like, I was trying to convey to Susan how epic that was, and I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I couldn't make her realize how amazing it is.
You need to figure out a way to send that information to her in a really cool ass creepy box.
Cool ass box. You're right.
Yeah,
as a vinyl record,
or show her the
with
episode,
a handwritten note. Yeah,
or show her the episode of Quantum Leap with Meg Foster, which is
which was there an episode of Quantum Leap with Meg?
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was. So you keep talking, I'll figure it out.
Oh man, I kind of had a thing for Meg Foster as a kid. Like her eyes, those blue eyes.
She scared the shit out of me. What are you talking about?
I know. She scared. She scared me, but she like kind of turned me on.
Well, creepy chicks. I like the creepy chicks.
Yeah,
I get it. I understand.
God, she's great, man. Like going back into her back catalog too. Oh my gosh! Like as I got older and I started watching more movies, like The Osterman Weekend, Emerald Forest, The Wind, Master of the Universe, like that was a huge run for her. 83, 85, 86, 87, and then They Live in 88, and then Leviathan in 89. That's just like, fuck. That's like
that is just
Jason.
Fuck.
That's like prime Jason viewing right there. Like, that is amazing.
Meg Foster got a trilogy in Quantum Leap, and if you're a Quantum Leap fan, you know how special that is.
Ooh,
because it's a 3-episode run of a show that was like, we're kind of a serial, like, or not.
Oh yeah, very super episodic. Yeah, I mean, like, the most episodic show in the history of episodic television.
I mean, it was like built in its DNA. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's so episodic, it is almost an anthology series.
That's what I was trying to come up with.
Yeah.
Yes, anthology. Yeah. But yeah, the fact that she had a 3-episode run in that is like, that's insane.
And I would be remiss if I don't connect when I can't connect to David Lynch. Meg Foster was in season 3 of Twin Peaks: The Return.
Oh, she's great in that too.
Yeah, she was great. She had a little role, but it was a really, really great little role as a casino cashier.
Yes.
Yep.
Bingo. Is that what he said?
Bingo. Yeah. It was was that what it was?
I always fuck it up, so I'm probably wrong. But whatever he yelled whenever he won fucking killed me.
It wasn't bingo. But I can't remember what it was.
All right, I'll look that up too. Keep going.
I'm gonna lose my license. Yeah, but anyway, so we get this little backstory, and it's sort of like, it's very witchy, obviously, but it kind of harkens back a little bit to our first movie of the month, The Witch, with like the naked witches and the like baby sacrifice, right? It really gets into that folklore of what the Salem witch was, right? That New England witch. It nails it. It really does. But this is also kind of where my problem with this movie starts to creep in a little bit. Is it's not folklore in this movie. It's like what happened. It's history.
Yeah, it's playing to the to the concept of a late 60s, early 70s exploitation horror of Satanic Panic, the original Satanic Panic of like Witchfinder General, and
right.
that's what it's playing to. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. But without like without some of the social context, like the satire, right? Because I think that's my problem a little bit with this movie, is that it plays the witches too straight, right? There's no real wiggle room. Like they were worshiping Satan, and Jonathan Hawthorne, rightfully, honestly, is kind of not a bad guy, because he didn't want them like sacrificing their infants, right?
right.
So it's like, what am I rooting for here? So they are like truly bad. And then that kind of subverts any sort of feminist angle you might have on the movie, because they are truly evil, right?
Yeah, and there's no but why.
Right.
Right? There's no why are they evil? Are they being oppressed? Are they being like...
They're just bad witches. Yeah,
Yes.
They're like Satan worshipping infant killers. Yeah. So it's like that bugs me. That's the thing about this movie that bugs me. But, however, that was the debate I had with Susan on this movie. Susan was like so out on this movie because of a lot of that, and I could see it, and it was starting to infect me. But then I started to kind of turn it back around, and I started to think about it a little bit more, and I was like, well, all right, fair enough. That's true. It does kind of fail on that account. But let's think about the history of horror movies. Let's think about The Omen and all the sequels. Let's think about how many times like men and the spawn of men were the birth of evil, right? Why can't, I mean, if we're going to talk about the equality of everything and feminism and whatever, why can't that be women too, right? So it's almost like the female Omen in a sense. It's like, let's why is it that look, to be a feminist movie doesn't mean the women have to be agents of good, right?
Right. Well, yeah, it would be like saying, it would be like people saying that it's like, okay, well, we to kind of tie back in like the Marvel stuff, right? Where it's like you have heroes and you have villains, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we want to have a Captain Marvel, we want to have a Sam Wilson Captain America, but no, we can't have Killmonger be, a black villain or something like.
Right.
It would be like that, where it's like we're talking about across the board, it's all going to be kind of equalized, right? Like, so the villains and the heroes can be whatever. Yeah, like you said, it's like one thing that you're seeking equality on does not necessarily have to mean that they always have to be good.
Well, at the same time,
like, all right, Chuck, you have an idea. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, at the same time, there is so many times in life and everything where we pass judgment without knowing where someone is coming from. Like Thanos, excuse me, to go back to Marvel, we know why he wants to eradicate half of the universe, and we can kind of sympathize with his reasoning.
Well, that's when you talk about building a well-rounded character,
right? Yeah. But these witches probably have a pretty good reason to be what they are.
We don't, right? But we don't.
But we don't know. We don't know. But that
you can't even assume that maybe they do.
You can't. My point is that we so often don't know and pass judgment, right? We so often don't know where someone's coming from and pass judgment. And I think that happens in this movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe.
Like the part of what is being conveyed to us here is that we are willing to pass judgment on something we don't understand because we don't understand it.
Well, there's an interesting
Does that make sense?
There. Yes, I do. It does make sense, because I think it connects to the overall metaphor of the movie, where her two are what's her name again? Heidi, where her two radio broadcasters are passing judgment on her.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. So her being affected
She's
by
having a hard time. She's being affected by this, by whatever these forces are. Right? I mean,
falling back
all
into
those
the
forces,
drugs.
you could call them metaphor, right? If you really want to like blow this movie out and expand this movie out, it's all, you know, metaphor of life, of getting older, of not knowing what the hell you're doing with your life, right? Like, she's a almost middle-aged woman who has a dog, right?
and getting burnout on her job, maybe too, like all of that.
And
she has an addiction, or had an addiction.
And she has an addiction, that she has been able to conquer for now. Right. But
right.
it's always a specter on her life.
And you see her go to one of her meetings, and she's kind of checked out there.
Very checked out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you have the two people who are her closest friends in the world start to doubt her at the slightest crack.
Right. Because Whitey, who's the other Herman, who's Jeff Daniel Phillips, he's the one who's like, she knows that he wants to say something, you know, and I think she has to say it, right? Where it's like, oh, you think I've fallen off the wagon. Yeah. And then he's defensive about like, you know, it's like he is walking on eggshells while still passing that judgment that something's wrong.
Yes. And he's trying very carefully not to make things worse.
Exactly.
There's a moment where when she shows up late, right?
Yeah.
And she's kind of out of it, and she like has to leave because she's not feeling well. And Ken Foree like slams the table in frustration. It's like in that moment, I'm giving Robert Zombie a lot of credit here, but that is a powerful moment because it is a moment where he cares so much for her, but he's also like not nearly good enough, right? Because he's judging her so hard, but he cares so much.
I want to jump in there because I had a problem with that moment.
Oh, tell us.
The fact that he is so angry at her for this small, it's okay. So the song is playing, which they all kind of, they didn't experience the first time it played together because Whitey played it for her at her own place and she got real tired.
We should mention
passed
that
out.
When they play the song, it really fucks with Heidi.
It really fucks with any woman who lives in that town who is a descendant of anyone who lived in that town.
Okay, well, yeah.
The only woman not messed with it is Maria Conchita Alonso.
Yes,
the wife of the
Senator Kelly.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about
the great
Bruce Davidson yet.
And he shows up actually early in this movie, so I don't want to go too far ahead. But his anger there, it's unwarranted. It's very unwarranted.
No, I think it is. Look, I get it. I understand it. I think that he's been through this with her before.
But if I'm your best friend,
I agree. That's why I said that it's.
So he's not strong enough.
He's not strong enough. He loves her. It's like a moment where I understand how much he loves her, but I also understand how much he's failed her.
And it's a frustration he has to bottle up to not explode onto her. So when she walks away, he has to let it out, you know, and that's
yes.
So it's kind of a thing where it's like Whitey and Munster both fail her by being
in different ways.
In different ways, but in both cases, they cannot do the one thing that might save her life, which is be strict or be stern, you know.
Yeah.
I'm extremely forgiving with this aspect in movies a lot, where I have to connect dots, right? And it's not like I didn't connect that dot. Like I could tell he cares, and that's why he's banging the table. But it's not earned by anyone. in this to me.
I can
It's
get
just
that a little
annoying.
bit. I can get that to some degree. I don't know. I feel like they give us enough in the early scenes of their camaraderie, especially in this scene where they have like Bruce Davidson on and he's their guest. And
yeah, but they give her fucking alcohol. Like, if you really care about her sobriety, you don't give her tequila.
Well, I don't think she was an alcoholic.
I mean,
I think it's a situation where she may have.
We're splitting hairs there, but
it's fair. It's fair point.
It's a fair point, but I think we also. I mean, again, a little bit of missing information there. It could be
right. So
it could be her. Like having alcohol is not an X factor or a triggering thing for her.
I will admit too, like when it turns when the plot twists that she's an addict, I was a little bit surprised. Like, because of that. Because it was like, oh, I wasn't really quite seeing that coming.
I saw it coming, but I was unnerved by the fact that they were willing to have alcohol with her.
Before that, though, I was like, oh, she just likes to party. And everybody likes to party. And then all of a sudden, oh, she's like a serious, like, hard drug addict. It's like, oh.
They should have taken that scene, like, kind of messes with me.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Yep. That's kind of just a little bit of bad writing there. Yep.
Yeah. But we can move past it. And I get you, Jeff. Like, maybe it's not a trigger, but if you're telling a story in an hour and a half,
sure.
Look, this isn't a perfect movie.
Right.
Like,
I wouldn't say
think anyone would defend that this is like a masterpiece.
And I think anyone who is a hard drug user probably has alcohol. But like if you're being succinct in an hour and a half, that kind of messes with that through line.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, sense. and maybe it's a situation where it's like it could also be a situation where this again shows the weakness of those two characters where they won't say no to her if she wants that.
I agree with that, but we should have known about it beforehand.
Sure.
In my opinion.
And to kind of piggyback on what Jason just said. I mean, again, this is a movie where it's like the vibes went out over a lot of other things. Totally. So I will not defend this as a perfect movie either.
Watching like Sherry Moon Zombie like walk her dog through Salem at dusk is just like perfect.
It's a great thing.
Halloween. It's Halloween.
It's
in the big city.
And the music to this, like that really like downplayed score is so good.
Oh, it's a million miles away from House of a Thousand Corpses, which is just pounding you with Rob Zombie's.
Which really is like the absolute.
it's practically 6,000 feet.
It's almost like with the exclusion of Sherry Moon Zombie, it's almost like he's trying to make the opposite of a Rob Zombie movie.
Yeah. Now that brings up something else, and I personally do not have an issue with him casting Sherry Moon Zombie in all of his movies. Personally, I don't. I don't care.
But she was Sherry Moon Zombie when this movie was made, right?
Oh, yeah. She was Sherry Moon Zombie before House of a Thousand. If not House of a Thousand Corpses, certainly by Devil's Rejects.
I mean, that is a very like Dario Argento thing to do. I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
I actually don't think she's that bad of an actress.
She really isn't. I mean, when he's casting her to be the characters that she like as Baby in the two Firefly movies, she is fucking perfect.
Yeah, she's fine.
I mean, it's like casting Sid Haig for the roles that he cast Sid Haig for.
Who the fuck was he in this movie?
He was in the flashbacks. He was one of the old timey guys.
There were so many credited actors in this that I'm like, where the fuck is Clint Howard? Where is Sid Haig?
Yeah, those guys are them and Michael Berryman. They're all in the back.
A lot of background,
background guys,
which is cool. Which is cool for me, and I like the fact that he focused.
Even Barbara Crampton was in this movie. It's like, where the hell was she?
Another woman. Who, I guess I don't know who she was, but it is cool.
Camille Keaton was in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, where was she?
Jeff probably knows. He loves Camille Keaton.
I do. I really, really do.
But let's forget about who they were in the movie. It's like the send up of all send ups to 80s, 70s horror.
Yeah.
Right? Like bringing all these people back, like having Dee Wallace
totally.
or these women.
It's like the same as last week. And we got Dee Wallace again here. Yeah, exactly.
But Dee Wallace, like, really gets her fucking shine in this movie.
She's
like,
wonderful.
She gets a lot of
She
shine
fucking takes down an Academy Award nominee in this movie.
She's chewing the scenery in this to me. It's great. Yeah.
Yes. Like, I want her to hit me in the head with the fucking frying pan. Like,
I do not want Patricia Quinn reading my palm. Fuck that. I do not want that.
Patricia Quinn is just...
Jeff, lean into your evilness already, for Christ's sake. You're an evil, evil man. Okay, so we've talked about kind of where we're going.
The one person that we have not talked about, to kind of back up a little bit, is Bruce. Yeah, Bruce Davison playing Francis Matthias. Yeah. He is a Salem witch trials expert, and he's written a book.
Almost an expert, I guess.
Well, almost, because yeah,
he has to find another expert.
Right, that's true.
Dude,
yeah,
that's so funny. I think that's almost satire here.
Yeah,
I hope so because
there's so many experts on the Salem witch trials, and there's only so much like that you can dig into, right? And
right.
All these movies make it seem like the lore is so much deeper than it is.
Right.
But there's only so many resources you can draw from.
Right.
And the fact that there's this one missing piece to his book that he has to like ask another writer about, and the writer's like, "Yeah, I only saw the journal for like a few hours, but I can tell you what I remember." And
he read it extensively, Jason.
I read it extensively, but he wasn't able to like source it all.
He doesn't have a copy of it,
which to me that's just funny. I just think it's funny. I think to me that is just like making fun of all of these people who write all these like.
This movie's too serious to do movies. That though. It's too serious.
Maybe, but
I mean, Rob might be being funny, but he's not alluding to the fact that he's being funny.
Maybe he's not being effective there, but
yeah, that's
I think I've kind of got a read on that.
I like the subtlety of it. I don't know.
Well, I kind of have a read on this, right? Because we have two guys who are supposedly experts in witchcraft and the Salem witch trial stuff. Both of them are completely worthless.
You can't be an expert in this shit. You cannot, right? Like,
well, but I mean, the point is that they can't solve the problem that ultimately happens in this movie, right? They can't stop the birth of crawfish Satan.
Well, yeah, neither of them believe that witches are real.
Well, right. I mean, right. So they are completely worthless.
They're the people that know like the real history. It is kind of like interesting in that respect, right?
Right.
It's kind of like subverting the actual history and saying like the people who know, the intellectuals, like everyone who's ever known anything about
we killed women for no reason.
Knows it was bullshit, right?
Yes, we killed women for no reason,
right?
And
so,
the whole laugh about the 26 people.
But that again kind of like compounds a little bit of what I don't like about the movie.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
But what I'm getting at is we've got two quote unquote experts who ultimately know that there is something, maybe more to things that are going on that they can't do.
Either of them believe.
Well, but
I have the best fix for this.
Sorry, Jeff.
By the way,
I can't get to my fucking point.
No, get to your point. Go. Talk.
Get to your point.
So the point that I'm trying to make is we have two people who claim to be experts. Whether they are or not doesn't matter. They claim to be experts, and they've written books about the witches and the Hawthorne scenario.
Yes.
And then we've got two people who are close to Heidi, the exact target of the witches and a descendant of Hawthorne. Spoiler alert, she's a descendant of the main guy that they're after. All four of these guys in this movie are essentially powerless and worthless.
Yeah.
Two fail on the facts and two fail on the emotional side.
Yeah.
They cannot barge their way in to try to provide assistance to an ailing member of the trio, right? It's like, I think we can and I think that kind of plays to how both of those guys react to when she's starting to slip downward into the spiral.
But if I could add to this real quick.
Go ahead. I got a lot to add to this, but go ahead.
Yes, please do. So Bruce is a purveyor of history, right? What he believes is history, and what he believes happened in, like so many before us, will deny the potential of actual witches or whatever. So Bruce is like, I'm reporting on these women who were killed unnecessarily because there are no witches. But the song that is played on the record that was in the box, and the name the Lords of Salem, makes him think, like, I've heard this before.
Right. And he continues to do the research.
He starts to think maybe there is more to this thing that I thought was just a lark, right? Like,
right.
Because women were persecuted for nothing, right? Like, as far as we know, and that is the stance we would all take, right? So, but Bruce is starting to think, is that his name? Francis.
Francis, yeah.
Francis is starting to think maybe there is more to this. And sorry, Jason, go ahead. I just
no, you're fine.
Wanted to color that a little.
No, you're fine. And yes, and that's where the movie kind of takes a more pro Hawthorne stance, right? And that's where it gets a little sticky for me. But if you want to follow through on some of the thematic aspects of it, where it's maybe more of an inversion of some religious conventions, you can start digging into, like, okay, well, you're right, it is a patriarchy, all of this, and now the men are powerless and the women are in control. That's so, like, anti-Catholicism, it hurts, right? You have the whole, like, last sequence is an absolute inversion of the Immaculate Conception and the Assumption of Mary, right? Like, it is Rob Zombie saying, like, okay, well, the women can actually take this back, right? Now, is it in the power of Satan? Okay, that's a bit of an inversion that maybe a lot of people can't get behind, because Satan has this satanic aspect, or not, of course he does, this evil aspect.
I have a Jephonic aspect in my life.
So what it really comes down to ultimately is, like, who is harmed,
right,
and why is that harm happening? And a lot of it is kind of like, it goes back to those early sequences with, like, the baby killing.
The spitting, like, on the fucking baby?
Yeah, like licking it and then twisting its head off. It's like, oh, all right, it's kind of hard to get past that a little bit. But what is am I prescribing too much to Zombie's sentiments here, or is he really just trying to create provocative imagery? That's where I just don't know. Because I feel like I can pull a lot out. But was he thinking about the Assumption of Mary in the final sequence of this movie? I don't know.
I think he was, and I don't want to. I mean, maybe we should. I don't want to jump there, but you gave me chills talking there, so I think you're onto something, at least for me.
Fucking A. All right.
That in our world, a patriarchal world, right? The men would be the ones making the decisions. The men would be the ones giving the babies to the women. So I think I remember you saying that this movie kind of takes the feminist aspect out, right? Like, it kind of is a detriment to feminism.
I think it neutralizes
in a way.
it in some
way. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily. Yeah,
I don't think it does. I think it tells us that if the women took the power, we would attribute it to Satanism.
Ooh, okay. All right.
Ooh, I like that.
All right. I got
like
a little tingle on that. Yeah.
Yeah, that tickled the right bits in my brains.
Uh-huh.
So I think it is like, and I didn't even think about this, and this goes back to the beginning of the episode where I'm like, I like to talk about these because it makes me think things. that I think Rob is telling us in this, that if we were to give the power to the women, that everyone would think it was Satanism.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to go.
I mean,
just turn on the
like, we
TV
know
to
that
the
already.
political ads.
We kind of know that already, but we
Yeah.
didn't see it in this movie, right?
Yeah. No,
Now,
I mean, yeah, I absolutely. I'm fully on board with that. Yeah.
and to take
Share
and
that
to
with
take
Susan,
my
because that might change her
Yeah,
opinion.
I think it will. I kind of turned her around a little bit on the inversion of like the patriarchy and Catholicism at the end of our discussion.
But it's there.
We had a good discussion.
yeah.
But you're
Now-
right. You're right. That takes it to even another level. Yeah.
The other thing that I will also add to my thing about the four main guys being essentially worthless.
Yeah.
Because also don't forget the when she's at Chuck, you I think stepped away, and Jason and I were talking about like her going to her addiction support group meeting, and she's checked out there.
Yeah, I heard that.
And the guy who's talking and telling his story is just another guy who seems powerless and kind of. But the point I wanted to make, especially about the four main guys, is that if this movie had been made 40 years earlier, Donald Pleasance would have done all of the research and busted in and broke up all the witches, and it would have carried off the woman as as the savior.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a guy saving the day, not a guy doing the research, showing up to deliver the research only to be unceremoniously beaten to death with a frying pan.
Yeah.
So it's like there is an inversion there as well.
For sure.
And that's a much more surface inversion.
No, it's a hell of a great point. It really is. Yeah.
I agree with that too. I think Rob fails later with the man being shut out and how that's handled.
Yeah, because there's like he offers no, like he doesn't really offer any resistance.
Like, see you later, and he's like,
okay, I guess I'll wait out here. But
it's
his
done. It's not wrong in how what it's doing.
It's going a little too hard on his softness, right? His softness has been a problem with her character in particular.
Yeah, because dealing with alcoholism or what's the word? Just an addict.
Yeah, just addiction.
Like you wear gloves around that. So there is a softness there, right?
But sometimes though you do get to a certain point where there is a softness that does have a little bit of hardness underneath it, to where you set a boundary and then you say, we got to get you help now, or something like that, right?
I think that one character, those two characters are one character, almost the other two H's.
They're like split and weakened by being split.
Because the one knows what he's supposed to do, but not how to do it. The other one is angry enough to do something,
but doesn't know how to be mindful. Yeah.
Right. So
I can get behind that.
And action, right?
Yeah.
Like they're just.
I think what it comes down to is, and would you agree on this level? The pieces are certainly there. Maybe the pieces don't entirely fit perfectly together, but this movie has good bones in terms of what it may want to try to do. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think I wish my memory was better, because a month and a half ago, we talked about a movie and I was like, everything is there, that this director is understanding of the material, understanding of what they need to do, but just can't execute yet. And I think Rob does execute on a good 60% of this movie, like how it looks. Like he obviously knows how to make this movie look, and that's what saves it, right? In my opinion.
Oh, I mean, that's obviously going to be the first thing when I talk about the vibes, right? It's right, like it's that look, it's that attitude, it's the
Well, yeah, he is a master of pairing the image to music, right?
Yes,
and he should be. Where his downfall,
I hope he would be.
I know exactly where his downfall has been in the past and in the future. I mean, past this movie is sort of in the narrative, right?
Yeah.
And then the direction.
But he can be good at characters. He can individually create some interesting characters.
Yes.
Sometimes they're not the right fit for the narrative, right?
Yes, and sometimes they're a little bit one-dimensional.
Oh, I mean, and the reason why I say the character is
one note. Sorry, Jeff. Go.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying they're all one-dimensional in this movie, unfortunately.
In a lot of ways, yeah. It's the one exception where I would say that maybe one of his outside of the Firefly family, because you had like Bill Moseley is insane in those movies, but the like aside from those two movies, the character he like what this movie needed is he needed a Malcolm McDowell from the Halloween movies, right? Because that is an interesting character that's in a movie that mismatches the character with the narrative, right? It goes too far out for the Sam Loomis Halloween character. If the Bruce Davison character was more wacky, like I wonder, and when I say wacky, I mean he's a little bit, he's not so buttoned down, he's not so, maybe he's almost obsessive over.
He's not a conspiracy theorist or anything. Like if he was that character, I'm with you. That might be too far conspiracy theory, but
or if he was less earnest, right? Like if he was like the Sam Loomis, where he is kind of not a good guy in his version of Halloween, and he's almost like a grifter, only to find out too late that oops, he's right. It's that would be kind of also interesting, but
right.
I think this movie does try to play the male characters a little too softly to make them ineffective. But
just to close the loop, if you don't mind,
go for it.
I think I was talking about a few minutes ago when I said a director where all the elements are there, but they hadn't put them together yet, was the specials.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Like you can see that in obviously very different films, but Rob is like on the brink of greatness here. I don't think he hasn't done it yet. I do think that our boy has done it.
James Gunn's done it. Yeah.
James Gunn has done it.
Yeah.
Like Rob was right there when he made
He has reached the pinnacle of what he is good at. I will admit that.
I mean, greatness to me is reaching the pinnacle of your, whatever your specialty is or whatever your thing is. But yeah, I mean, it's not like James Gunn has made a world-changing film, although I love some of his films a lot.
Who knows? Maybe he'll surprise us all and Superman will be a Best Picture nominee.
I don't think it's going to be a Best Picture nom, but I think it's going to be a really good movie.
He's got a lot of goodwill to win back, and I think he can.
I think I wouldn't bet against him. I'll just say that.
No, I wouldn't either.
No, and the people who are betting against them need to get their heads out of Snyder's asshole.
But that's, Jason, sorry, no. Jeff, again,
I was done. That was yeah.
Do you agree though, Jason? Like Rob Zombie was on the pinnacle of greatness with this movie almost. Like it felt like he was about to put it all together, and has he? Either of you?
No, I don't think he's ever really put it all together. I think he's regressing actually.
Does he needs, in my opinion, I was going to ask you guys what he needs, and I'm sorry again. I'm so apologetic today. He needs someone to write a good movie. Right? Like maybe. He shouldn't write it. Do you really think he doesn't care? Well,
I don't think he cares.
I don't think it's that he doesn't care. I think he wants to have his vision be the predominant one.
But the problem is, I think
what he
his
would
vision
be
is not his vision. His vision is a jukebox, right? And he hasn't been able to fully translate the jukebox to the full success that.
But imagine if somebody wrote 12 songs. Like, imagine if somebody wrote 12 songs for him, and he could put them all in the jukebox, and the writer did all the work of connecting them. Then he could make.
Maybe.
That's what I feel like. That's my opinion.
I think it would take more than just the script. I think it would also take a singular producer, because this movie is produced by 4 people. Jason
Blum being one of them. Yeah.
Jason Blum, but the other is Oren Peli, the Paranormal Activity guy.
Yeah.
So he would be a guy who would be like, he's got an idea.
These are money guys, though.
Is this Blumhouse, though? Like, was Blumhouse?
No, Blumhouse was a thing by this time.
Oh yeah,
but it's not listed in. I don't remember.
No, it's not. It's not a Blumhouse movie.
Yeah.
This is Zombie probably sold a piece of this movie to these 3 guys.
But yeah, like I've heard Blum. It's not Blumhouse. Is it just Blum? What the fuck is his name? It's Jason Blum, right?
Yeah,
or Bloom.
Yeah.
He's not that guy. He's not that guy that's going to rein you in and talk about your vision, right?
No.
He obviously failed.
Like, he might help you
multiple
focus,
movies,
but yeah, he's not the guy. He's kind of like, yeah. I mean, he already kind of fucked up one Halloween franchise.
It feels like a Blumhouse movie that's good.
He definitely fucked up a Exorcist franchise.
Oh, boy.
I was going to say it feels like a Blumhouse movie that is successful is one where he writes the check and doesn't check.
Well, or one
back
where
in,
where
right?
Where he like supports it from the root.
That's what I'm. Yeah. But doesn't
stay away from the remakes, Jason. Like, for real.
Right.
That too.
Yeah, because like there are, well, although if you're going to do a remake, do more with Lee Winnell.
Sure.
What did he do? I'm sorry.
The Invisible Man. And he's doing Wolfman here in a few months.
We'll see how the Wolfman turns out.
That looks interesting. I'm a little nervous about it, but forgetting that.
Wolfman is almost like low-hanging fruit for me. I like the last one with Benicio del Toro a lot.
Sure. But that's tying a more gothic feel to it too.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Christopher Abbott as Wolfman 2 is also kind of like perfect.
I want to drag it back a little bit because I feel like I'm dogging on this movie too much. It is good. Like, this is a solid movie, but it is a little thin, right?
Yeah, right. No, it's like I was saying.
That's why
the bones are there
a little bit because it's a little thin.
Because ultimately, what ends up happening is that she gets the record. Whitey plays the record, which kind of makes her.
Whitey.
That's the.
I know who he is. I'm just like, Whitey.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why they call him that in this movie necessarily, but he plays it, and she kind of enters a little bit of a trance.
Yep.
She gets affected by it. Then they play it on a portion of their radio show, which gives listeners the chance to either praise it or bomb it. And it affects all the women listening to it, whoever has the radio on. A few days later, they get the message that the Lords are coming to play a concert, and as
a free show.
Yeah, Ken Foray says, "We've got all the tickets. It's free. We'll hand them out to you."
Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, and so that's what it's all leading to, which is the ultimate sacrifice of all of the women of Salem to give birth to Crawfish Satan Man.
Crawfish Satan Man. And I don't want to do this movie a disservice because in this point, which we've kind of alluded to, during all of this, where the music is affecting her and she's being affected by the music, she does fall back into the drugs, which is a core aspect of this movie, and we should not disregard it. Right? Like, she falls back into drugs. That's what the boys are worried about with her. And prior to her actually doing the drugs again, when she's just tired from the song affecting her and shit, they start to quietly accuse her of it, which is something that probably happens to addicts. Like, if they have a bad day, someone's
doing drugs again?
Yes. Yeah. So that is like an outside pressure you cannot control.
Right.
And this movie is a lot about what you cannot control.
Right. Yep.
So I wanted to just call attention to that, because
I think it's a great call out, because there's meat on that bone for sure. Especially for people who kind of really fully identify with that. Yeah.
I'm sure there are plenty of people who are addicts who they end up, because like, she even gets like a sore on her face, right?
Yeah.
Which you would, like, that's something that sometimes you identify with somebody who smokes crack, right? They have burn marks, they have sores.
She's exhibiting a little bit.
Exactly.
A little bit. Yeah.
And it may not even be that, but it could be a thing where it's like you have a zit, or you have, you get sick.
Head,
you hit you fell out of bed or something. That's something I've done recently, which was fucking embarrassing.
Been there before.
Yeah. But like at the same time, it's like, to people who are walking on eggshells around you, they're going to immediately pick up on those things that aren't quite right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, like it's
important to the narrative that she is experiencing this from the people around her, while she's also dealing with something that is beyond them that they cannot understand.
Right.
Which also feeds into the fucking addict thing, because the people around you cannot understand what you're dealing with, even as you're trying to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But go ahead.
And I don't think that this has any actual significance, but the Velvet Underground bookends her fall, because right before she listens to the song by the Lords, because Whitey puts it on, they listen to Venus and Furs.
Yeah.
By the Velvet Underground, and at the very end of the movie, the crescendo climax, the Velvet Underground song "All Tomorrow's Parties" plays over her apparent assumption into hell. Is it a desumption? Is it an assumption of into hell? How does that work? But
this is interesting, because
what is that?
Okay,
what is the end?
It all culminates, right, with her.
She has Satan's baby,
the Palladium. Baby. She has the baby, the 26 or whatever number, 32. I can't remember what number it is. They all apparently commit suicide, right, on the stage, and she's standing there while the three
on a pile of them, that's a painting. I don't know what painting that is, but that is a. It
is absolutely a painting.
It's a painting.
But then the three witches, Dee Wallace, the other two ladies who are in the apartment, are watching her, and like, she is on a pedestal, basically, of dead bodies. Forget whatever the painting is. It's like,
but that is like a painting for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I'm standing.
What painting it is, but yeah.
I'm standing in my outfit. Like, what outfit? Like, because that's what All Tomorrow's Parties is like. What outfit is she going to wear at All Tomorrow's Parties, or whatever? It's about the skin you're wearing today, or whatever. Like, what is it? What is it that you're showing the universe? I don't know, because what's weird about it is the movie ends with her standing on that. Basically, we never see Whitey again. We never see Herman again.
No.
We get a little bit of denouement in the news story that says, hey, all these people died.
Right.
But this is related to a story of one of our most famous DJs disappearing.
Right.
She's not in the dead body. She's not there.
Right. She's disappeared. She's not with them. So, like, she has been assumed, right? That's like my
Consumed or assumed. Yeah.
assumed. Like I think of it as the inversion of the Assumption of Mary. Like
I agree with that.
That's what I imagine it as. I don't know if that's true, but it feels like pretty on the nose.
I think it's on the nose, and I think it's right based on my thought that came from you talking about her being the representation of what would happen to someone if they, or women, when they take power, right?
Yeah.
They're dealt with, they're disappeared, they're
Right.
whatever. They're satanic, like, because that's what happened to these women in Salem, probably.
I just think of it, the image of the three witches.
Looking up at her,
Yes, looking up at her with like adoration, right? And she is floating.
she's achieved something they have not.
Yeah, and
right?
they are yes, she has given birth to this creature, this
Pepe,
probably satanic
Pepe the Muppet.
yeah.
Totally. Oh my God, Pepe the prawn. Pepe,
That's what I was trying to.
Pepe Satan.
All right, you've been listening to Film Seizure.
Don't I peek there?
Yes.
Pepe Satan. But yes, there is something like angelic about her, right? That they are basking in, and it feels to me like that inversion of the Virgin Mary. It just feels like that.
Absolutely.
Like she's the mother of Satan,
and
right?
it's the sides are like, you can blur those sides,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
we were decrying the fact that it is not decrying. This movie is mean. It's mean. It's fucking mean. But if you think about it, you can side with these women who have been fucking stomped on
and God, we didn't even talk
throughout
about the
history,
scene.
right?
We didn't even talk about the scene in the chapel.
Oh yeah.
With Randy
He goes
Garcia.
in the chapel and she has like that dream of the priest that's sitting next to her raping her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not subtle at all. Yeah.
No, because he's like, yeah, I mean, it is not subtle. He's making her give him a blowjob and talking about the fact that women who go against God will be dealt with.
Right.
You'll be dealt with. Like, you cannot do this. I'm not doing a great job of articulating my thoughts, and I apologize
but you
for
are.
that,
You're doing a great job of it because you're pointing out the hypocrisy, and by inverting it completely, it even if the inversion is imperfect, it is showing the hypocrisy.
It's showing, it is saying something, and it's saying more than I thought it was when I first watched it.
Yes. Actually, me too, to be quite honest. Like, I came into this episode a little down on this movie after liking it a lot, and I'm like right back on the train.
Yeah, I want to watch it again and be like in that mindset. Those are like, congratulations, Rob.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Congratulations, Rob. Like, if you can make a movie that can make people think and talk about these types of things in the context of your film, you've succeeded.
Right. Yeah. Especially if you're going to go back and watch it again to see if what you thought was really
even
there.
if it was unintended, even if it was like fringe or indirect, it's a success.
It did something.
This in my mind is a successful movie.
Well, and that's the thing.
Something.
Yeah, I mean, because we've talked about this before, right? Maybe not always on the show, but we've talked about this privately where, like, we talk about what's art, right?
Yeah.
And I would say this is the closest that Rob Zombie has truly created something that's art in terms of a film, because we can break it apart. We can look at things. We can see different angles of this, and we can all agree that while maybe it works better for one of us or two of us or all, or we all three have a different point of view now coming into it, it's doing something. It's tickling the right bits of our brains.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if I brought this up on the show before, but I used to write really terrible poetry
Me too.
in my teens and early 20s, and I used to read it to people or share it with people, and they would always be like, "Well, what does this mean?" And I was always like, "Well, what does it mean to you?" Because that is what mattered, and I think Rob is like, he has a poet's heart. He's like, I know what it means to me, but that's not what's important. It's what it means to you that really matters. Because me telling you what something means to me doesn't affect you.
Right? But I think that there could be, I mean, I think it depends on the movie, the song, the poem or whatever, because there can be some things that are open to interpretation that may mean one thing. That may mean one thing to you, that might mean something different to me, or might mean something different to another audience member. But
effective art like impacts somebody. It doesn't matter if they get what you were trying to say.
But I think that there's also, I mean, I think that there should also be some overarching intention, though, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you're not just throwing shit against the wall.
Right. You're not Jackson Pollocking.
Yeah, you're not Jackson Pollock, and I'm not trying.
To me, it does feel like more personal than his other stuff. Like there are some things going on here. The demons, if you will, are not literal demons. I think the theme of addiction is a really
It's all about addiction.
It's a really astute one, and I think that there's a lot of wrestling with that. I think there's a lot of wrestling with probably some of the backlash to him in his music, and his, like, I'm sure there's been hundreds of, maybe thousands of people who have decried him as like some sort of devil worshiper, right? Because of his music. We talked about his connection to kind of like that that sort of occult type music anyway.
Yeah.
Like heir apparent to the Alice Cooper. I mean, Alice Cooper was completely persecuted for his motif. So yeah, I think there's a lot of that going into this. I think it's him just kind of like channeling a lot of personal stuff.
That room with the door that opens and draws you in, like, yeah. I mean, that's the bag of H or whatever drug you're.
And the fact that it's a crucifix in its upright form in neon light is so unexpected, right?
Right.
You would expect that imagery to be inverted, but it's not.
Yeah.
To me is like almost everything right there.
So
that's
very,
the key.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is. He's definitely telling you something.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And my point wasn't to fly in the face of let's disregard what Rob is telling us. It's more in the how it impacts you matters almost
Absolutely.
as much, if not more than that.
Totally.
Here's something interesting about Rob Zombie, considering what we think this is saying about addiction. He is actually, he avoids alcohol and drugs. He's a teetotaler.
Oh, interesting.
So he is, he says that he's certain, because he certainly didn't achieve anything by being wasted and fucked up.
Yeah. Okay.
So in maybe a way, he is using this as a way that maybe he's trying to work through some things about how he saw people who did drugs.
He knows somebody that was.
Absolutely he does. Oh, I'm 100% he does. But, so this could be his attempt to come to terms with some of how he handled that in the past too.
And I like this too, and I don't want to belabor this, but Jason and I are huge Stephen King fans. And granted, The Shining, which we talked about, you can see it in this movie for sure. Stephen used to be he was overt about it, but he was also in the shadows about talking about addiction.
Yep.
Nowadays, he's less so. It's way more overt and, hey, addiction sucks and whatever, like in his old age, which I'm like, cool, you're right. It sucks. But this is very old school Stephen King. And it's like, I'm telling you the tale of this without hammering you on the head. Right?
Yeah.
Like, this is what can happen to you. And I think it is an astute, especially for someone who avoided all this, if he really did, like his understanding of what being addicted to like we've all been addicted to something, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
We've all been addicted to something, whether it's drugs or cigarettes or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, I'll never forget the time that I was, really, really big on heroin for,
Yeah.
that 15 years of my
I
life.
know. I remember that time I had to like slam my fist down on the table when you left the room. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jeff smoked that cigarette after he quit.
That's something I never did. When I quit smoking, I never had another cigarette.
Yeah,
Me too,
congratulations to you.
Never cheated
Congratulations
once.
to you.
Nope. Yep. But it's hard, man. It's fucking hard. You know what I did
It's not that hard
to get
anymore, though, is it?
No.
It's not
But
hard
the first couple of weeks when I was quit, you know what I had to do to stop being jittery about. I had to take a shot of alcohol. Now, ain't that something?
Calms it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it leveled out the jitters. When for a lot of people, that's why they that's why they smoke because of alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this is one of those episodes. I said it in the beginning. I wasn't sure what I thought about this movie. I am 1000% looking forward to watching this again.
Cool. I think.
Fantastic.
I think you will. I think it'll grow on you. I think it'll.
It already has.
And it'll ebb and flow. I think it had flow on you. Like I
there was no way you're starting from lower than Jason was after.
Yeah,
and he still hasn't apologized to me for changing his mind.
Well, I have zero. I will be honest, and
I
this
don't know if
is.
you changed my mind, but
I will say.
But you were right. I mean, you were right. There was more on it than I gave it credit for. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had zero expectations for this, and that helps. And I think I will enjoy the beginning more because I thought it was a little lackluster when I watched it. I was like, when is something going to happen? And it is a little schizophrenic in the beginning because it goes from like those cool shots that we probably all love that look like Halloween with her walking her dog around in the city.
Oh my God. Susan was so concerned about that dog the whole movie.
I thought the dog was going to die. I don't want to belabor this. I will just say I'm very much looking forward to watching this again, and I'll leave it at that.
And if nothing else, you've got two great scenes with Velvet Underground music. Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, I really, really, really like All Tomorrow's Party use at the end of this movie. It's very
great,
neat.
right? It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we did it.
This kind of fun episode, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think we
meandered around.
We meandered, but you know what? It was like meandering. It was like you walked me through Salem in October.
Yeah.
And while I took a leak on a fire hydrant.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well,
you're our dog.
One of you guys are Sherry Moon Zombie, so lucky you.
Yeah. I would totally sign up for that. I'd be Sherry Moon Zombie.
Anyway, by the way, speaking of her, I do kind of like her a little bit more studious look when she was wearing glasses.
Yeah,
that's a good look. That was a good look.
to put another pin on that, I think her performance is pretty good in this movie.
Yeah, I think the people who do all the memes about Rob Zombie making a movie and casting it, I think they are probably desperately single and really not very clever in their comedy.
I'm not desperately single, but I think her performance honestly is half and half in this movie.
Okay. I agree. I agree. It's a little uneven. Yeah. But I think it's more than adequate.
It's perfectly fine in this movie. And
I do
actually really good when things get really serious.
Yes.
That's when she takes off. Like when it's kind of lighthearted.
Yeah. She's good at reacting to things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think
Which is
sometimes
weird that
that's really, I think that's sometimes a sign that you do have pretty good acting chops if you can react.
Can I ask you guys something, because you said that? Because the most reactable moments in this movie, besides her hearing what's his name? Matthias, thank you, getting beat in the head with a pan.
Ooh.
The most reactable moments are shit she doesn't even see.
Yeah.
That's kind of a miss, is it not? Like, I get why they're doing that for us when the witch is in the corner and, you know, when she's in the bathroom and there's something in the background. Like, there's a lot of background shots that I would love to see her fucking react to, and she doesn't get to do it.
Maybe it's protecting her a little bit. I don't know.
Could be.
Because the one thing...
maybe it's like understanding her limits. I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
it would be smart. It would be smart. Yeah.
But also, I do think that it's also entirely possible that, one, maybe it is just outside her sight, and two, I was kind of taking it as being it's not really there. It's there. Certainly. We talk about protection, but like in the movie, it could be this witch is now there with her, like the spirit of the witch, and we know that, but she doesn't.
Like, I enjoy her reactions to more of the like surreal stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like when she goes into the room, right? And when she's on stage near the end. Like the more surreal stuff is more believable, I think, than like some of her reactions to like the stuff that is happening in reality. Yeah.
Fair.
Well, and a lot of when stuff are really kind of happening,
stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that's really also the most reactable stuff is also when she's at her depths in terms of her of her
she's feeding
slipping
her dog
back.
and the witch is in the fucking corner.
Well, yeah, but that's just assuming that, like, it's there.
I'm with you there. I'm just
that
saying,
it could be. It's not really there, right? Yeah. Anyway,
I wonder whose dog that is, because she was definitely like bonded with that dog.
Oh, yeah. It was probably hers and Rob's.
Probably, because that
could be. Yeah.
What do you? All right. So let's put a pin on this episode. What do you make of the end of the movie? Because the end of the movie is her playing with her dog. It's like she is maybe assumed into hell or whatever, but you know, you've got the sequence of she's been disappeared, but then the credits play over her playing with her golden retriever.
My read on that is Rob Zombie kind of doing the thing that Rob Zombie likes to do with things, where like he's showing the character one last time at a good time in their life, that it's not sequential. It's one last look at our victim before we, to
try and like bring home a little bit more of the tragedy.
Yes, that's what I think. That would certainly fit his.
Then it is definitely a tragic end.
Yes, I think so. I think it's because I think it plays to his exploitation sensibility of this was an innocent that had something terrible happen to them.
Okay, so that colors the movie a little bit, right? To the point where he believes that what happened to her was a bad thing.
I disagree with
that. Interesting. What do you think, Chuck?
Well, so there's two problems here in what I think. One is we are actually told by the news that she disappeared.
Yeah.
Which makes that ending and her being where she is probably not a likely thing with her dog.
Well, no, that's like a vision of the past, I think.
No, the way I saw it is that she has continued on with her life, with her dog, and now she is the witch. Or
somewhere else. She's in another place.
Yeah, but where they show her is somewhere we're kind of familiar with, I think. So I don't know if that's true. But I think she lives.
Perpetuation of the curse.
Yes. I think she lives, she moves on, and she carries on
as long
whatever
as you don't
this thing
fuck
is.
with me, I won't curse all of your women in your town.
Sure. Yeah. I didn't go that far in my thought, but I thought she was a witch that continued to live. But I
don't feel like it really stamped that.
I'm more prescribed to what Jeff is saying now that he said it. That's just what I thought when I watched it.
That's fair. Huh.
So Jeff, right. You win. You win this time.
Well, I'm also. I mean,
I think that's the most likely.
Yeah, because
but it also kind of undercuts some things for me.
Well, sure, but that's one thing that's also very common across Rob Zombie's movies is that in House of a Thousand Corpses, it's the two young couples that have this terrible thing that happens to them at a time in which they're in which they were planning on. No, but no, I don't think so. But what he does in each of his movies is he glorifies the people who have a bad thing happen to them, or what the audience would perceive as a bad thing. Because in the sequel, the people that are the bad guys who killed the people in the first movie, we feel for them being gunned down is the intent. And, and it's all slowed down into slow motion to where it's supposed to be an emotional thing. In Halloween 2, it's Michael Myers that we're supposed to kind of sympathize with as he rides off with his mother.
Yeah.
The ghostly version of his mother. So the end of the first Halloween, I think, is where, or is it the second one also, that we see what happens to Laurie, and she's catatonic, so it's like, I think he has this thing of where he's always trying to show people in one last good light before sending people out onto the streets with a bummer ending.
Either way, I don't like it. I don't like that they showed her with the dog, but I don't think it should color what happened to her. Either way. Because if she's happy now, if that's what it's alluding to, because that's the last image we see of her, then that's okay.
I agree. It's sort of a double-edged sword. Maybe she is happy now. Maybe this is her self-fulfillment. But then the other side of it is, if you want to go in the hardcore addiction metaphor, she succumbed to the worst aspect of addiction. She died, and we are looking back on her.
We're remembering her when she was in a better state. Yeah. It could.
It creates a poignance to it, right? It puts an exclamation mark on the sadness. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it could just simply be, maybe her soul has passed over into some, they used her body for what they needed, and she's dead.
And now
she's been redeemed.
She's at peace. Yeah. Right. Like as an afterlife. Yeah. Yeah.
Which could also mean that dog also, unfortunately.
But Rob obviously wanted us not to be sure, or he would have had her body at the scene.
Oh, he definitely doesn't want us to be sure.
That's no, but yeah, but I think he also
ambiguity is the crux here for sure.
Yeah.
I think he's also hedging his bets a little bit too, where it's
definitely.
Where it's like some people are going to look at this as a downer ending, that evil in quotation marks won, and we better send them out with something decent that looks better.
I think he's also just trying to make an art film. I really do.
Yeah, maybe.
I think this is Rob Zombie trying to be a little pretentious. And hey, all right.
Hey, it's all right,
buddy.
So
Jeff, you get a passing grade here.
Yeah. Jeff, you saying he made a Kubrick movie,
right?
Checks all those boxes.
That was his first reaction. Yeah,
one big check.
There it is.
Over the entire worksheet.
If I were ever going to meet Rob Zombie, legit, it's just the only thing I would want to talk to him about is this movie. It is.
I wouldn't want to ask him if he's more human than human.
Well, I already know.
Oh,
I wouldn't.
Yeah, he said so.
Of his work, This is all I want to talk to him about. I'm sure we could find like all sorts of fun things.
Oh, there's a ton of things you guys could talk about. I'm sure.
Common. Yeah, but a bit of like his work, I wouldn't want to bore him with any of that. I would just want to like ask him about this movie because I think it's fascinating. That's a fascinating.
I feel like this is personal, like you said. So he would probably either ask you, "What does it mean to you?" Which is what a poet would do, or want to talk about it.
I would also wonder, and I would assume this is the movie he gets asked about the least.
Well,
probably.
That maybe we'd have a great night.
Yeah, because there's not enough zombies.
You wouldn't
in
drink,
it.
so we would.
there's not enough. Back to Satan.
We'd have a great night of Shirley Temples.
Yeah. There's not, but there really aren't enough. Like, this probably bores some people that. Like,
I'm sure it does.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
It excites us, but bores a lot of others. Yeah.
Yes, the people, that intersection, that Venn diagram, are probably like, "Fuck this movie. It's not exciting enough." But anyway, I think we did it.
We did it.
We more than did it.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, we did it a lot. We did
it a whole bunch. We did it the whole bunch. Anyway, next week. Hey, next week. Halloween happens next week.
Oh,
what?
Yeah. How about that?
It's our time.
I love it.
You do you?
I mean, I fucking love it.
Yeah, I thought you did. Anyway, so next week, we're celebrating Halloween one day early, October 30th, with Rosemary's Baby, to kind of round out our witchy month and the places that they live.
Yep.
Yeah.
So go to filmseizure.com. That's where you'll find that business. Also, all the places where you can follow us, subscribe to us, to listen to us, all of that good stuff. In addition to that, on Monday, the episode of Monster Mondays is coming at you, and I'm talking about Lisa Frankenstein.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, it is a fun movie. I liked it a lot. It again, vibed with me perfectly. So, I wanted to do, that kind of closes out a month of classic monsters done slightly different way.
Yeah.
So, this upcoming Friday, by the way, all Monster Mondays, Film Seizure, both at filmseizure.com. Do all that stuff. This upcoming Friday at bmovieenema.com, I have The Wizard of Gore.
Ooh,
from Herschel Gordon Lewis. That movie sucks, by the way.
Yeah, well,
it's got something good in it, and that's the gore.
Yeah,
and it looks fun.
I'm not a big fan of his.
His movies are not good.
Yeah,
his movies are not that good.
Yeah.
The acting is fucking awful in it. But anyway, I try to give it as much credit as it should be due, but it's also very repetitive. Anyway. Talk about pacing of a movie.
Yeah.
Repetition, even in a short movie, can make a movie drag. Anyway, that is this Friday, bmovieenema.com. And this Saturday, for the season finale of B Movie Enema, the series, season number 5, I hand the reins over to Jeff Bob Buckle. The Last Enema.
Nice.
As he discusses
The Last Enema.
The Ghost of Flight 401.
Show up for that. I've read the script and it's fantastic.
It's
even though there's no script, but it's fantastic.
The Last Enema.
Well, I mean, I took a big chance handing things over to Jeff Bob Buckle. I think he did okay though.
Did you tell him to roll it?
Roll film.
Roll the film.
We'll just have to wait and see if he did enough of that.
I hope he told some corny jokes at the end. Yeah.
Why didn't you go with Jeff Belt Buckle?
I don't even know who you're talking. This is some other guy. Why are you asking me? It's his name. I don't know why you're asking me.
But Belt Buckle
is really good. I know.
Okay, guys, my middle name is Robert, so I went with Jeff Bob.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
Yeah. And I had to shorten the last name as much as I possibly could.
No, you did good. You did good. Even though you had nothing to do with it.
You did get Bob.
I had nothing to do with it. Yeah, I had nothing to do with it.
It had nothing to do with it. Some guy just did it.
Yeah, this other guy came in, just changed everything about the show. Anyway.
Jeebus, take the wheel.
Exactly. Jeff Bob, take the wheel.
All right.
All right. Anyways,
Let's go home, everyone.
yeah, let's get out of here. I'm going to go to this concert by the Lords, the Lords of Beech Grove. See how they go. See how they do. And until then, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I am the Astro Creep.
I'm Jason Oliver, Super Beast, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.